And today I thought I would talk about the experience of power versus powerlessness in submission, and really just the sovereign experience of being embodied. Now, that sounds like really high. So let me kind of get into this. Lately, what I've been doing is I've been really sitting with my own experience of being in my body. And what's been fascinating for me in sitting with my experience of being in my body is like looking at the spaces in my body where my body has certain sensations and what those sensations are mean to me. So, for example, one of the sensations that I've really been sitting with lately has been a sensation around my belly. It's been sensation around like what it feels like in my belly to feel a sense of powerlessness. And how do I feel about that? What is the experience of that? Now, a lot of times when we talk about feelings and emotions, we treat them as abstracts, like there's something out here. But the reality is that our bodies are a direct mirror and reflection of our experience. And this is something that can lead us into greater sovereignty as well as deeper submission when we're in touch with those aspects. Now, I want to do a quick welcome to Ray, Sheena, and Paul. Glad to have you here. And I'm going to paste something in the chat. I recently put out a sovereign submission survey and I posted about it, but I'm going to share it here because this is something I really love your help on. If you could take a few minutes of your time and fill this out. It's anonymous, which means that you're not any of your information isn't going to be like your email or your name isn't going to be shared anywhere. But it's designed to help me understand better what you're looking for and like what you want to learn more about, what you're looking for in terms of support and other things along those lines. So if you have a few moments, I'd greatly appreciate if you could click that link and fill out the survey because that helps me to support this community even more. And I'm a sovereign coach for submissive men. I work with submissive men in terms of helping them navigate their experience around submission as a man and what it means to be a healthy man in today's world as a submissive man and be able to stand in that and have that kind of that power and grace and confidence. And that's part of why I do like to explore like what is going on with my body at a given time. And so lately what I've been doing is I've been really paying attention to my belly because that's where I've been feeling a lot of sensation. And what I felt with my belly is this sense of an experience of powerlessness. I've been like, well, what is that about? And here's the interesting paradox. Within submission, we have this idea of surrender and control, but here's what we don't surrender so much as we choose to give is the sense of power in our lives. Like if I am choosing to be with somebody in a submissive dynamic, which I've chosen to do, in a very real sense, I'm giving that person power and I'm asking them to use their attention and their focus and their awareness to direct me in my service to them. And yet, at the end of the day, I still have that power. If I were to say at any time, I don't want to do this, at the very least, I'm going to hope that my mistress is going to stop and say, okay, what's going on? And that we pause and that we look at like what's really happening here. And this is something that I think a lot of times people in general struggle with is like voicing and speaking up for their needs and their wants and being able to speak to what's going on within them or what they're experiencing. I know I've certainly struggled with it, and it's one of the reasons why I've been focusing so much around the topic of being able to have the conversations in your dynamic, being able to have the conversations around your desires and your wants and your needs, because I think it's a really important topic that is often missed out on in just the greater schema of things for both men and women. But in this case, I'm speaking, specifically toward men. What I've noticed about What I've noticed in regards to men, whether they are submissive identified or dominant identified or otherwise identified, is that majority of men struggle to really articulate what they want and what they need. A lot of times they don't necessarily know what they want or need. And what I've even observed is that in some cases, a man will end up expressing what they want or they need in an indirect manner. They're not fully in their power. They're not fully embodied in what they want. And this becomes a real concern because if we're not fully in our power and embodied in what we know and want, it makes it harder for us to really connect meaningfully with other people and for those people to be able to receive what we want. And the key word there is receive. We can claim what we want by speaking up for it. We can ask somebody for something, and it doesn't mean we'll automatically get it. Part of being an embodied sovereign man is that you are confident enough in your expression and appearance and being that you can do that. You can speak up for what you want and that you can do it in a manner that doesn't involve abandoning yourself or people pleasing in order to get what you want, which is what happens with a lot of nice guys. If you're not familiar with nice guys, the term nice guys, just a brief breakdown that nice guys are men who are basically abandoning themselves in the hopes that they'll get approval or validation from the other person that they're with. Now, a lot of times what ends up happening is they form what are called covert contracts. And the covert contracts are those hidden, those hidden agreements. Well, they're not even really agreements, but those hidden conversations that haven't happened around something. So like if a man says, like, I really want to, if a man doesn't say that he really wants to be spanked, but he wants to be spanked, but he never says anything, it's hard for the person that he's with to know that that's something he wants. If he's kind of waiting for her to figure it out so that then, it'll happen. What he's doing is he's putting her into the role of being a mind reader. And this is something that happens with a lot of men, will and I speak this as a recovering nice guy myself. I've been the nice guy where I'll want something, but instead of speaking up for it and saying what I want, what I end up doing is or I used to, I end up not speaking up for it. I end up going and acting on it sideways in a manner that's not in alignment or congruency with my agreed relationship dynamic or with my integrity, my sense of responsibility and honor. And a lot of men do this. So regardless of like how you identify, whether you identify as a submissive man or a dominant man or whatever else, like this is a really important topic to understand and recognize. Like how do we speak clearly for what we truly and genuinely want? Now, if you have any comments or questions as I'm going through here, feel free to drop those in the comment field. I'm always happy to answer them and respond or comment. I like that doing that a lot. What I want you to really come away with is like here's a golden opportunity for you to be really clear on what you want. And part of that means that you learn to be really in presence with your own body, in presence with what your experiences are. Let's say you have something that you want, but you haven't voiced it. Spend a few moments and identify where in the body that thing resides. Where is there a physical sensation that represents whatever it is that you want that you haven't spoken up for? Um, and then allow it to come free and speak up for what it wants. Now, I'll share a personal example that again, I would say that in my particular case, when I'm feeling like I'm not aligning up with what I really want, that shows up in my belly. Or if I feel like I'm out of integrity or out of coherence with who I am as a person, that if I feel like I'm like not in full alignment with who I am, that's going to show up in my belly. And that can be an experience that can be somewhat offsetting because we want to be fully in our bodies. And yet a lot of times when we're uncomfortable, what do we end up doing? We try to escape into our head or into some addiction or something else. And like what we're doing is we're missing out on vital information that the body wants to share with us. What I recommend doing is giving yourself a little bit of grace here. Feel into the experience with your body. So I'm going to invite you right now to close your eyes for a moment. Just close them. Take a deep breath in. Breathe out. Breathe in again. Where is your breath coming into your body? Where is it coming out? And take another deep breath in. Now, what did you feel? What did you notice in your body? Where was your body feeling out of alignment or out of connection? Or was there an experience of alignment and connection? Because there could be. Feel into that because that's going to tell you that that's where your body is experiencing that kind of information. And that's a signal from your body that, hey, there's something for you to pay attention to here. A lot of times we don't pay attention to our bodies. And when we don't pay attention to our bodies, what we're really doing is we're denying ourselves the fundamental information that's going to help us learn the necessary skills to move forward. So I want you to really sit with that. What are the skills that are going to let you move forward? It could be somatic exercises. It could be breathing. It could be some form of movement. It could be something else altogether. But whatever it is, it should be something that allows you to more fully connect into your body and connect with the sensation of power or powerlessness and be able to embody that experience instead of separating yourself from it. When we separate ourselves from our bodies, what we're doing is we're cutting ourselves off from our own sovereign experience. And as a result, we're not able to fully show up in presence in relationship to the act of submission and devotion that we want to be in. And whether you're in a 24/7 dynamic or you're in a scene or something like that, it's really worth paying attention to. Like, how is my body responding here? A lot of men struggle with naming their emotions. So, if a man's feeling sad, he won't necessarily always know how to say, "Yeah, I'm sad." And this may seem odd, to some people. Like, well, why do men have so much trouble? But a large part of it is because we've been conditioned to shut down our emotions. Been conditioned to keep our emotions to ourselves. I mean, if you known me like a few years ago or before, what you would have discovered is that a lot of times I numbed up in a lot of ways. I ended up freezing a large part of the body information that I had out of me because it felt easier to do that than to actually be present with the discomfort or present with the person's feelings or just present in a way that like spoke to American. So we want to be really aware of these things. Well, I'm an American, but you may not be. But we want to be really aware of these things. Like I'm this way. I'm a certain thing, or I'm a submissive, or I'm a man, or I'm whatever. Like, what are the experiences that you're having around that feeling? What is the experiences that those feelings are speaking to for you? When we understand what the experiences are, then we can actually connect more meaningfully and presently with ourselves. And then as a result, we're able to take that information and express it and share it in the dynamic that we're in. If, for example, I go and I say to my mistress, "Hey, I am feeling powerless right now. I'm feeling this sense of helplessness, or I'm feeling these other things," this gives her some valuable information that she can work with. When she has that, then she can come up with a response to address it. But she can't do that if I don't say anything. And in a very real sense, in order for me to empower her in my role as a submissive, it's not just a matter of surrendering control and letting go. It's also a matter of, at the same time, bringing information to the table so she can do something with it. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that whatever she does with it is going to be her choice. Like me speaking up and saying, here's what I want, or here's what's going on with me. Once I say that, that's where it switches over to her, and it's her choice as to how she wants to respond. And I think it's a really important facet of this that we really look carefully at, like, what do we want? What do we need? What lines up with us? Where's the coherence or the lack thereof? What is embodied? What is an integrity? And what isn't? If you're feeling an experience of power, a lot of times we know that when we're in power, that we are really in touch with our truest selves. And how do we get in touch with that? We get in touch through the act of embodiment, through the act of paying attention to the signals. So allow yourself, I want you to do this right now. Touch the part of your body where you're feeling something, like whatever the sensation is, and just allow yourself to gently touch it and get curious and ask that sensation in your mind, like what is it that you have to share with me? What is it you want me to know? And just pay attention without trying to fix, without trying to solve anything, without trying to have the answer. Just pay attention to what your body shares with you. And as an example of this, like if I put my hand on my belly, on the front of my belly, right underneath my belly button, I can feel like a small leaden weight there. And it feels a little restrictive. When I allow myself to just feel that and fully lean into that experience, it allows me to acknowledge what's going on. That my body is having a response to something maybe in the environment, or that my body's feeling a certain way and it's trying to signal something to me. Maybe it's trying to tell me that, hey, you're out of coherence, you're out of integrity, you're out of alignment. It could be something else. It could be like, hey, there's something going on that you need to pay attention to. Whatever it is, we want to pay attention to it. We don't want to just ignore it and then pretend like it's not there. There's the reason that we're having the sensation that we're having. And that reason is because it tells us something vital about who we are, what we know, and what our experience is. We can then bring that to our mistresses. We can bring that to the woman in this case, in my life, a woman in my life. I can say, hey, here's what's going on. I could also bring it to a friend. I could bring it to another brother. I mean, that's the other thing too. Like sometimes we need to bring something to someone else. And it's not a matter of, freezing out your mistress or whatever. It's more a matter of, hey, here's a challenge I'm having right now. Can you relate to this as another man? One of the most valuable experiences that I've had over the years is being in like a men's circle, being able to share what's going on in my life, having other men share what's going on in their lives, knowing that I'm not alone. And this is again a challenge that a lot of men face, is that they do feel alone a lot of the time. And they're kind of like, well, I'm alone. I don't know what to really do about this. So I've got to just figure it out on my own. But the truth of the matter is, we never have to figure things out on our own. And a lot of times when we try to figure things out on our own, what we're essentially doing is putting ourselves into a position where we're going to have ourselves, we're going to have at some point a moment where it's like, yeah, you don't have it all together. You don't have it all figured out. And that's when we're going to really experience that sense of powerlessness. And the way to handle that, in part, is through co regulation. This is why, as a submissive man, we need to be comfortable with the act of co-regulation, because a lot of times we'll be called into it by our mistresses. We'll be called into it in a way where it's like, hey, you need to pay attention. This is valuable information. It's like, okay, once I've heard that, I can believe it. So it's a really important element of this work that we pay attention to all of these important details. So again, I'm going to post the link to the survey here. And if you get a chance, please fill it out. It only takes a few minutes. It's anonymous. And it is a chance for me to understand what you're looking for as submissive men. What can I do to support you in this container? What can I do to help you get in touch, not only just with your truest desire, but with all the other areas of your life where there may be something that is in shadow or that's operating in a weird way or whatever else. Like it's something that I think, you know, we need to do more. We need to reach out more to each other. We need to connect. And so filling out that survey kind of gives me a sense as to like what's going on with you and what you're looking for and how I can help you. And so I want to thank all of you for being on here. Glad to have connected with you. And this episode will go up in a little bit. But remember, like part of being in our sovereign presence and power is being able to fully accept and acknowledge that we have something significant to experience in our body. And like when we allow ourselves to really access the body will lead you to the truth of yourself. It will lead you to a fundamental understanding of who you are, and what you're intended to do. And you can trust that when you have an understanding of how your body sometimes locks itself up and keeps you from fully connecting with the life around you and with everything going on. All right. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.